October 26th, the landscape of the DCEU was forever changed. And that's when James Gunn and Peter Shefferon took over as head of the new DCEU. On December 15th, James Gunn announced on his Twitter that their DC slate is ready to go. Well, what is those projects going to be like? Well, here's our list for what we want to see in our upcoming projects.
In this list, we are counting down our top 5 movies, TV shows, and characters that we want to see that will specifically be part of the new timeline. Movies like Aquaman and The Lost Kingdom or Shazam, Fear of the Gods will not be on this list since they are not part of the new DC slate.
5.
So my number 5 is Green Arrow. Basically, Green Arrow is time-tested. He's been in a couple of TV shows, of course. His first live-action appearance was in Smallville with Superman, and he was really good. But then Smallville ended, and then they started the Arrowverse. That's how big Arrow was, where it's not the CWDC universe, it's the Arrowverse. And the first 2 seasons were undeniably great. But as the show went on, well, Arrow wasn't Arrow. He became Batman to the point where, like, season 3, the whole story arc was about Ra's al Ghul and Oliver Queen replacing Ra's al Ghul. Well, that's a Batman story. And then he was broody and mopey and stuff, similar to Batman. So basically, the Arrowverse's version of Green Arrow, you can't not say it's basically Batman mixed with a little bit of Green Arrow. So what I want to see in the new DCEU, maybe in phase 2 or something like that, is a proper Green Arrow, more true to the comics, more outgoing, more witty, and stuff like that. So what do you think about that?
I would very much like that because I'm a big fan of Justin Hartner's Smallville Green Arrow because I think he had a lot of his peppiness in that show kind of gave you the old school Green Arrow in the comics. Mm-hmm. Versus, I'm a huge Stephen Amell fan. I love Arrow through all 8 seasons. But to kind of mix those 2 kind of characters together, it could give you that kind of classic rogue, more of a rogue, but to give him that ability, like what you saw Stephen Amell do in the show, I think would be an absolutely great mix. But just make him more roguish, make him a little bit more fun-hearted and doing in everything he does. Bring the trick arrows in.
Yes, just don't make him Batman.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, rogue, the lovable rogue.
Yeah, for sure. So what's your number 5?
Mine is, I look at it as with James Gunn was very much the man behind Guardians of the Galaxy. So I was thinking, what could be a really odd team, and that's Booster Gold and Blue Beetle. They, in the comics, have had very many team ups and had comic series together. So I almost want to see a buddy cop type. I want to see it more in a TV show, in a more like weekly bad guy stopping the hijinks, where they can go up against like the D-list villains in the DC universe. You don't have to bring in the Joker and Lex Luthor for these guys. You can bring in like Condiment King, Kite Man, and you could just kind of make up weird ass bad guys for the show in that sense. Where that's where I think I know James Gunn won't be directly leading this, but to have his inspiration behind something of that sort, I think would very much push 2 very minor characters up into the spotlight.
Yeah, absolutely. When you look at the 2 characters, I absolutely love Booster Gold. For those who don't know, Booster Gold is basically from the future, and he just comes back in the past to become a hero just because technology is in his future is that good. So Blue Beetle is basically confirmed to already have a movie starring the kid from Cobra Kai, Miguel. However, we don't know. This will not be a part of the DC new slate, or at least we don't know if they're going to incorporate other projects in the new slate. But would you like to see the Blue Beetle played by the same actor who's Miguel from Cobra Kai?
I think you'd be good. The Blue Beetle I'm thinking of with this more would be your Ted Kord old school Blue Beetle, in my opinion, to give you like your who used Scare, but not to the same way that Jamie Reyes. Sorry, I should have pointed that out. But yeah, I would love to see the Ted Kord Blue Beetle team up.
Yeah, for sure.
Ted Kord Booster Gold team up. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's definitely a good idea, especially with the TV shows, because they've announced James Gunn has announced it's going to be movies, animation, even and movie and TV shows.
Now,
So this is definitely good.
animation, Booster Gold and Blue Beetle, I think would be absolutely perfect for an animation style.
Hmm.
Four,
Coming in at number 4, I got Superman. Yes, we all know Superman is going to be in the DC, the new DC slate. It's Superman, right? But you know what? At one point in history, Superman, for the longest time, was the biggest hero of all time, bar none. And I'm talking like the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, maybe like Batman caught up and probably surpassed him. But when you look at the biggest era of superheroes, which is what we're living in right now over the last decade, where these movies are making millions of dollars just off namesake alone, sure, Cavill was a great Superman, but there hasn't been a Superman movie in a long time. And then, I don't know, you look at superheroes, I think Superman is just the definition of a superhero. And you get the music from John Williams, the like old school like Superman theme, and you put that up, it's like so iconic. It's a shame that we haven't heard it in such a long
Yeah.
time. And then, when you talk about Rogues Gallery, you got some great villains with Superman. You got Bizarro, you got Brainiac, you got Zod, you got Lex, right? Yeah, the list is endless.
Oh, he has such a rogue gallery, and one's like even off weird. Like you have the Fatal Five, which I think could be a great. Again, the animation was amazing, but to put up against guys like the Fatal Five and other things, bring it into live action, I think you just have so many different choices with Superman that you get. There's so many ways they haven't gone. They've gone the Zod route many times. They've gone like to give us a Brainiac or a Bizarro. That would just be amazing.
Yeah, I think Brainiac though would probably be a Justice League level threat, but like I couldn't stand the actor's name who plays Lex in Batman versus Superman, Jesse.
Oh, Jesse Eisenberg, yeah.
Oh man, they basically like nothing against his actor, but they made that Lex basically like Joker Lex. He was like the personality of Joker and Lex combined, and it just wasn't Lex. Give me that firm, strict Lex. You know what I mean? Like I just want to see everything about Superman. I would love to see some more. Like, let's see Smallville and everything. I just think Superman is. Even the WB actual president has said they understand how they effed up on Superman's property. So what's your number 4?
My number 4, Green Lantern. But I want to look at it more as a series. I know they all you look at Green Lantern as a movie, like he's high end, but I think a TV show would actually be able to build a Green Lantern universe a lot better, because you could build it with multiple members of the Green Lantern Corps, using Hal Jordan maybe, and not even using it as a main character. I would like to see Kyle Rayner as your main character, and have like Hal Jordan be your old vet of a Green Lantern to helping him learn and putting him kind of in place as the number one Green Lantern, to lead into maybe a Green Lantern war. So you're getting or to a Lantern Corps war.
What are your thoughts on that? Like, there's that been HBO show. This show's been in development, and we haven't even gotten we've only gotten like a small picture, and I don't even know it's an official picture. There's been rumors about this show where it was going to be Diggle from the Arrowverse who was going to transition.
Crisis on Infinite Earth special is where they showed. That was like 3-4 years ago now that they showed that Green Lantern symbol, and that was the last thing we heard anything from that show. I thought that's long dead in my opinion, and that was supposed to be on HBO Max, and that whole mess is just they've canceled enough stuff there.
3,
All right, so for my number 3, I put Dr. Fate. Have you seen Black Adam?
Yes, I did.
So, my favorite part of Black Adam was Dr. Fate. I thought Pierce Brosnan killed it. But, I just like the character in general. Just the concept of somebody who knows your future and all your possible futures, but also understands that not all futures are set in time. I wanted to see like a prequel immediately. I thought it was so good. And hey, if you're going to reboot everything, give me my Dr. Fate.
Yeah, because when I saw Black Adam, that he was the best character on that screen. Just the way Pierce Brosnan played him was like, you got this guy who's been Bond, who's been so many different things in his career, bringing all that in and giving that the gravitas it had in that movie to really be the strongest character in that movie. I would love to see him come back in this new reset of the universe, and you can use a younger actor to play a younger version of him. Maybe if you're flashing back to showing how he got the helmet of fate. I think that would be a great way in the movies or TV show, however they go with it. I think it would be a movie for Dr. Fate, but you could have a double timeline thing where you're showing him how he got it and you're showing him in a current day how he's really affected by it all.
There's two quick little things I wanted to mention about Dr. Fate. One, I think the best comparison, one thing of Doctor Strange, one of Doctor Strange's most iconic scenes is Infinity War, when he's doing the viewing 14 million universe like multiverses. Yeah, and I think this is just Dr. Fate every day, all the time, right? But actually, going back to Pierce's specific take on Dr. Fate, is he was talking to Hawkeye, and he was just, I don't want to see you go, and they were just talking on the plane or whatever, and just he just killed that so much. It was such a great role.
Yeah, it just the way they portrayed it to each other, it was very. One didn't want to see the other didn't want to go, and then it kind of flipped in what you thought was actually going to happen.
So, what's your number 3?
My number 3, Martian Manhunter. I think they kind of teased the seeds with him in the Man of Steel and stuff and stuff we were showing in deleted scenes and in Justice League. But I want to see this character come alive in very much sort of a way that they portrayed it on Supergirl. Give us the backstory. I would like to see it as a movie or series, doesn't really matter. Give us the war on Mars at the start of this movie and then him escaping to Earth. But I'd love to see it where maybe a movie or a season is set in earlier decades. So it's showing him evolving through with Earth, like he's in the 60s and he's in the 70s, things like that, and how he is affecting real life things and what he's doing to change it, and then eventually get him into, because obviously the Martians live a lot longer than humans do, get him into the current day DCEU or whatever it's going to be.
Yeah, actually, did you watch the Snyder cut version of Justice League?
Yes, that's because it was showing those little bits of what he was doing to help affect everything in that movie.
I don't know what you know about Manhunter too much, but he has a fear of fire, like a crazy dramatic fear of fire. Mm-hmm. And I just love the there's the cartoon Justice League Unlimited, and I think that you really see him trip out over fire.
I was thinking one scene to that, you could put him in the Chicago fires in the decades back.
2.
So for my number 2 is Zatanna. And Zatanna is actually such a good character with so much backstory. And I'm really surprised she hasn't gotten as enough love. So a little about Zatanna, she's not actually human. She's Homo Magi, so basically Homo sapiens, and she's just an offshoot of the ape or whatever, but she's a Homo Magi, where her father and her grandfather are just normal magicians traveling, but her mother is a pure breed Homo Magi. She's only half Homo Magi, and her father, her mother is perceived dead at the early age. And her father actually has history with Bruce's father. So Zatanna and Bruce actually grow up together. She's a showman because she basically she spends her whole life also being that showman type magician, right? And she just has tons of charisma because of that. And obviously a little bit of the sex appeal. She almost has a trickster-like personality. And then her cosplay is super easy to cosplay. And if you have her, I can just imagine how many additional Zatanna cosplays you would have.
Oh, it's such an I'm not saying calling it easy, but it's an easy cosplay. That most people, and if you make this character far more popular, you would see that cosplay so much more. And this character is really interesting, and that it delves into the magical side of DC, where you don't see a lot of magic. You don't see more science, technology, and Martian powers. I would love to see the magic, again with Dr. Fate. It's into the mysticism. You're creating another character with mysticism in Zatanna. You could do so many things, and technically, with her magic, she is a foe. And not saying she's a foe for Superman, but she can be a folly to Superman. If you ever want to cross them through something, you could do something where she affects Superman's powers. Same with Dr. Fate.
Yeah, for sure. Actually, like she's done one of the Justice League Dark members, one of the big members, and she has a relationship with John Constantine and everything. And like I think she's been in. I think she was in Smallville very
Yes.
briefly, and I feel like she's in Justice League Unlimited and stuff.
Yeah, where and that's something they did explore in Smallville when her brief time there, her magic affected Clark and messed with his powers, changing his powers, which is a classic Superman weakness. And
Mhm.
I liked seeing that because it was a different take because you never really seen magic affect Superman outside of the classic like early days of Superman.
All right. So, what is your next one up?
Mine is a reboot or redo of a script that came out in the late 2000s called Green Arrow: Escape from Supermax. I want this movie. It'll obviously be rewritten and rechanged for the more modern time, but I want to see basically the story was Green Arrow gets put in prison. I can't remember if it was due to outside interference or if he was framed for a crime. I cannot remember, but he gets put into essentially a supermax prison full of supervillains, and the entirety of this is he's trying to fight his way out and get out of this prison without dying. Arrow did do something similar to this, but I would love to see it in a way of more over the top. You get a lot of your B-list villains, your B and C-list villains in this prison, and you can even pepper in a few A-list villains here and there. Trying to beat out these villains, escape the prison. That's essentially would be your kickoff movie, and then you can have it come up with a sequel. Because then the way I look at it, maybe somebody put him there, like captured him and put him into prison. He has to fight his way out, and it's revealed in your next movie he's going after Malcolm Merlyn, the Dark Archer.
So, if you like this content, please be sure to subscribe. And how about you and talk about yourself, Andre?
Yeah, you can catch me on a couple different networks. My personal YouTube, Andre and Melba Wrestling Talk. You can check us out where we cover a lot of Japanese women's and men's professional wrestling, and and we do have some other stuff. We'll cover local independent wrestling when we do get out to it here in the Edmonton area. You could also catch my new show coming out in 2023 called Marvel Talk over on our local establishment on YouTube and Twitch.
So coming in at number one, my number one is Green Lantern. I know you mentioned it, and I just kind of wanted to double down on the fact that, like Green Lantern is probably the biggest comic book character that has not gotten some sort of like rebirth over the last 10 years plus with the rise of these superhero movies and stuff. You've had everything from Deadpool to obscure like magic from like X-Men, but yet you don't have Green Lantern in any like the very little we've had are like very small Easter eggs, like in some alternative universe Diggle is a Green Lantern. You have so many different Green Lanterns. You have Hal, you have John Stewart. I just want to see a Green Lantern,
Yeah, me too. Like I said, I want to see a Lantern where it's got such a rich history of different characters you can play with in there.
So then what's your number one?
My number one is, I'm going way off the board with this. Give me the Question. If you want to do it in movies, whether you want to do it in TV shows, I think a very detective noir type guy. He's a guy who wears a mask of nothing. You don't know who this guy is. It's the best thing about him. He can be undetected because nobody knows what he looks like. And it's essentially it's Batman without the gadgets and the bat tomfoolery of it all. You have this guy who's just purely a detective, and to do him in a TV show where he's going to be solving grisly crimes, you could make this more an R-rated style show where it's a criminal minds.
So did you ever watch that Justice League Unlimited? The Question's in it. This one scene, I don't remember it verbatim so much, but it was like Batman looks at him, he's like, and they think I'm crazy or something like that. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah. It's a great scene.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for checking the video. Please be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll check you guys in the next one.